In terms of number of educational institutions, India has the world's largest higher education system with about 1,000 universities and 40,000 colleges, whereas it ranks third in terms of size and diversity. But its presence in the international education system has been abysmally below its true potential that remains unexplored. Indian Institute of Science, IISc Bangalore, Indian Institute of Technology, IIT Bombay, and IIT Delhi remained the three universities from India to rank in the top 200 positions in the latest QS World University Rankings 2022. As per the rankings, IIT Bombay for securing 177th position, IIT Delhi for securing 185th rank, and IISc Bangalore for securing 186th position in overall university rankings globally. Interestingly, India is also home to world's second largest English-speaking people after the USA, surprisingly more than the United Kingdom. Despite being the world's second most populated country with 1.39 billion people, accounting for 17% of the world population, India's share in the foreign students arriving for higher education remains miserably low at 0.85%. This explicitly reveals the fundamental faults in the country's higher education policy post-independence. Moreover, just hold on, please. Sorry. Moreover, there had been serious regulatory impediments to internationalize and take initiative on their own by private and also top-class public institutions of national repute. Over the period, government and its key higher education regulatory body, UGC, became stumbling blocks rather than facilitators in internationalization's efforts. Casting off the shackles of geographical boundaries of the highly inward-oriented higher education system since independence, the new education policy 2020 has set the stage to take India to the global stage it long deserved. This has been the first time in the education history of India that the UGC and the government has taken a bold initiative to integrate Indian higher education system with the international education and making meticulous efforts by evolving implementation strategies and regulations to make it world-class. National Education Policy 2020 is a landmark transformative initiative of the government to address the immensely significant issue of inward orientation of the Indian higher education system and to promulgate a policy framework for its internationalization that would go a long way, not only to improve quality of higher education in India, but also its reach and making it globally competitive. India aims to actively promote itself as the preferred global destination for higher studies, offering quality education at fractions of cost compared to developed countries. Top-class universities from around the world would be encouraged to set up their campuses in India, as well as top Indian institutes would be encouraged to internationalize and expand their activities overseas. Each higher educational institute would set up international students' office to facilitate incoming foreign students. The policy envisages a significant rise in the inflow of foreign students for higher studies with emphasis on subjects such as Indology, Indian languages, yoga, arts, music, history, culture, Ayurveda, Siddha, and Unani system of medicine. The UGC is also in the process of devising a mechanism to conduct admission tests across countries for admission in Indian universities, expanding overseas reach of Indian university system through online distance learning ODL programs, and its due recognition by the UGC is highly commendable. Hybrid programs and student faculty exchanges as an integral part of course delivery in the university system that received severe resistance by Indian regulatory bodies is poised to accelerate international integration and expansion of Indian higher education. As a maiden initiative, the Government of India, with active support of the UGC, is likely to set up a unified one-stop online information portal to disseminate information for inbound foreign students on education system in India, incorporating details of institutions, programs, seat availability, admission process, etc. Special efforts are being made to provide scholarships and other financial assistance to students coming from South Asia, Southeast Asia, West Asia, Africa, CIS, and Latin America. This has been the first time that Indian missions overseas and the Ministry of External Affairs is actively involved, and several online interactions were held between foreign university experts and their Indian counterparts so as to identify unexplored potential for internationalization of Indian education system. There are pressing reasons behind the NEP's strong pitch for opening up of India's higher education sector to the world. One, despite having second largest higher education system in the world, none of its 1,000 universities and 40,000 college figures in the world top 20 or even top 100 university rankings. Further, the country ranks as low as 72 among 132 countries in the latest Global Talent Competitive Index, which gauges countries' current ability to grow and attract talents. One of the key reasons for this is education bureaucracy's prolonged stranglehold over higher education system, preventing innovation and expansion of the sector. Two, with gross ratio enrollment over 26% and expected to grow further 50% by 2035 as per NEP projection, India's mammoth higher education sector is ready for massification. Given the size and growth prospects, India has the potentials to emerge as a top destination from global universities. Three, top foreign universities would bring in capital, latest education technology, innovative pedagogy, and facilitate institution mobility, that is missing in India. Their mere presence, let alone collaboration and partnerships, can spur competition and innovation among Indian universities. Fourth, with shortage of high-quality educational institutions, there is a steady flight of quality students to foreign countries for higher degree. In 2019 alone, some 750,000 students went for abroad to pursue higher studies. On an average, students spending $15 billion per year. The total students which have gone there for studies spend about $15 billion per year to earn these degrees. Therefore, by having top foreign institutions, students can obtain these degrees in the country at a much lower cost. The idea of opening up of India's higher education sector took its roots during the initial phase of country's economic reforms. The Congress party-led coalition government, which ushered a series of economic reforms and liberalization in 1991, brought up the Foreign Education Bill in 1995. However, due to stiff resistance from the opposition Bharatiya Janata Party BJP and strong reservations from its own allies, the bill was shelved. The Congress-led United Progressive Alliance UPA tried to give a push again in 2006 with a fresh draft which could not make it beyond the Union Cabinet. The one more attempt made by the UPA too in 2010 in the shape of Foreign Educational Institutions Bill, which too failed to see the light of the day due to vociferous opposition from the BJP. One of the key reasons for the BJP to vehemently oppose the bill was for the fact that the entry of foreign universities would raise the cost of education, rendering it out of reach for a large part of the population. In fact, similar concerns were raised by the Parliamentary Standing Committee in 2012, which warned that the higher education ecosystem of India would be significantly disrupted by the inclusion of foreign universities as autonomous institutions. The committee further observed that foreign universities might not respond to the real needs of the nation, as education for the masses will not receive the priority and the fee structure won't be inclusive if the incentive for the foreign universities is profit making. Moreover, it could lead to an exodus of academicians from public universities to these foreign campuses. It further deepened the crisis of the falling quality of education and funding in public universities. Ironically, the BJP, which was part of the standing committee and opposed the entry of foreign universities, is today facilitating same narrative. Now, to discuss this very, very important, relevant topic, is Indian higher education at par with other countries? I have two very eminent educationists, those who are authority in this field, and very, very highly experienced panelist with me. And I would like to invite my first panelist guest, and he is Professor Dr. M. Abdul Salam. Professor Dr. M. Abdul Salam is PhD and postdoctorate from UK. Dr. Salam is the former Vice Chancellor of the prestigious University of Calicut, which is one of the largest and reputed university in India. As a renowned educationist, agricultural scientist, and education administrator, Dr. Salam, in a career spanning more than 4 decades, from 1975 to 2020 across continents, has established a great reputation as a tireless academic and scientist, besides being recognized as one of the most authoritative voices in the area of higher education. He is an academician and scientist with great zeal and enthusiasm. He has published 153 research papers, 15 review articles, and 13 books in biological sciences. Welcome, Professor Dr. M. Abdul Salam on our show. Professor Dr. M. Abdul Salam, you being not only the former Vice Chancellor of a prestigious university, but also a renowned educationist, you have seen the education system very closely. Moreover, you were also abroad in many countries and many continents. You have seen the education system there, and you are well aware about the plus and minus points of the education system in India. And one more thing, now you have also become a political leader of the ruling party, that is the BJP. So all these factors combined together, definitely now your views will be very, very important, because it is not only from an academician, but from the BJP's leader also as a ruling party, because the last July, when this national education policy was announced, the emphasis is about the internationalization of the education. So we would like to know from you, is Indian higher education at par with other countries? Professor Dr. M. Abdul Salam, please. Please unmute, please unmute, please unmute. Please unmute, Professor Salam. Yeah. Yes, please, go ahead.
Respected Lal Goel ji, Dr. Mohanlal Agarwal ji, listeners, and other friends. The topic of the day is Indian higher education at par with other countries. Indian higher education, that means education starting after +2, that is from graduation and above, at par with other countries. Higher education in every country is associated or discharged by universities and affiliated systems. So the question is whether the Indian higher education is at par with other countries. We talk about other countries, there are 195 nations, and you can classify as developed, like the G7 group, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, US, UK, Canada, etc., developing and undeveloped or least developed. There is no point in comparing with a tall fellow and a dark boy. Why the tall fellow? The G7 and some of the very closely reaching developed nations. I will give you an example. One of the top most developed country, USA, the GDP is 65,000 US dollar with a population of 30 crore. UK, the GDP is 50,000 with a population of 6.6 crore. Come down to India, then the GDP is around 2,000 or $2,100, 20 times or 25 times or even 30 times less than these two nations with a population of 140 crore. The point which I am trying to say is that comparison between universities of the so-called developed affluent nations with large amount of resources with India. India is a developing nation. It is not reached the status of a developed nation. Carrying 140 crores, it is not meaningful. But perhaps if we make an attempt to compare with the similarly placed nations, yes, I am sure we will be much ahead. That is my first observation. The second observation is regarding the universities. During 1947, when we got independence, the number of universities were 25. Today, the number has gone up to 2005 with 45,000 affiliated colleges. When you look at the number of universities in the world, over 195 nations, the figures, I don't know whether it is correct or not. It is well above 25,000 or 30,000. Clear-cut information is not available, but the number is very high. But I am sure, based on my association with many countries, I'm sure that out of these 30,000, large number of universities are very much inferior. We are all the time looking at the universities of developed countries like MIT of USA or Oxford, such highly reputed universities of, with not only resource, but of age and reputation generated over years. Then I made a comparison. I made a comparison between, not a comparison, observation between developed versus developed nations versus India. Now the question is, how the universities are rated by the rating agencies like QS World Ranking or Times Higher Education Ranking. If you look at the ranking criteria, they mention the ranking criteria, they take norms in terms of academic reputation or in terms of employer reputation or faculty-student ratio, or citations per faculty, or international faculty ratio, or the number of international students, publications, etc. They have their own criteria in fields like teaching, research, technology transfer, and consultancy areas. These are the things. But in India also we have similar parameters to classify the universities. In India, 1,005 universities, but unfortunately, the ranking or the rating of universities is often very, very less or limited. In the recent times, that of late, Government of India is taking active steps to rank the universities and make the information available to the students to know which are all the best universities. As an educationist, my point is specific and different. Why? What is the objective of education? We have a population of 140 crores. Yes. We don't want all these people to be doctors or engineers or other professionals, all excellent. No. We need professionals, we need scientists, we need workers, we need people of different grades and skills and quality for meeting our job requirements at different fields. In certain professional areas, once you complete MBBS, you will go directly to doctor. When you complete engineering, you go directly as engineer. And similarly, professional specification is there. But in the other subjects, commerce, linguistics, arts, and certain other science branches, there is no such specific targeting. So once you are a graduate, your openings are diverse. You will be considered for so much of diversity of jobs. So that is one specialty that we are observing here. The second one is the word employability. I was observing the usage of this term by many people during the last 3 decades. Out of the surveys of the engineers, there are records ranging from 80 to 90% non-employability or unsuitability of graduates. Now the challenge before us today is how to make these students employable. Last time I made a survey on the number of students in India out of 140. The total number of students, that's only an approximate 40 crores, of which 36.5 crore belong to schools, 1.5 million schools, and 3.5 crores belong to the colleges, about 45,000 colleges. And let us look at this 3.5 crore of college students, graduates and postgraduates, and their ability to work in the respective areas, in the assigned areas. So that is our major concern. So as an educationist, my concern all the time was how to make them employable. Now, before I proceed from here, let me make another point. I had opportunity to visit many universities in US and UK and even Australia. And my feeling is that, the theory education part is not superior than the one we are having here in India. But what is superior in those nations is in terms of excellent infrastructure, systematic way of handling, systematic time scheduling, timely conduct of classes, delivery of the content using audio-visual materials, using excellent equipments and computers, and they do things in a very systematic manner. That approach, that system, that culture is very much absent here. That's one thing I have noted. The second thing I have noted in that culture, that is the developed country education culture, and in India, is that in India, our planners, our teachers, our university leaders, they all attach more importance the syllabus oriented, theory oriented, mugging oriented, reproduction oriented, A grade oriented, or 100% oriented sort of education, wherein the students, everybody feels satisfied with their grades based on their memory tests. But in other places, what I observed, along with this, yes, they have a memory test, but they give an emphasis on their doers and thinking ability. That is what is lacking in India, in our country. It is not yes, I should say lacking, it is not absent. So looking at the advantage of A plus B, emphasis on theory part and more emphasis on the working part, the real doing part, ability to do.
I think we lost the
Ability to
connection.
data skills. Yeah. We have that.
Sorry, please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, looking at the advantages and disadvantages across and along the continents, looking at our needs, looking at our resources, looking at our abilities, the government of India has come out with a wonderful document, what they call NEP 2020, National Education Policy 2020. That document, prepared under the chairmanship of Kasturi Rangan, I consider it as a fantastic document, a valuable document. If translated to action accordingly, and large number of problems that is being spelled out by many people, many stakeholders from many corners can be eliminated, and the quality of the output of the universities or the product of the universities which will be much higher. Now they have used a word. The focus is to develop, or focus is to ensure integrated development of a student, focusing his physical development, mental development, emotional development, intellectual development, thinking development, doability, that is a skill, everything that is required for a total personality. That is the focus of the NEP 2020. That's one thing I have seen. The second one, there is greater emphasis on employability. Along with that, the NEP also envisaged for ensuring value systems and Indian culture, Indian heritage, Indian values. That is also envisaged in the document prepared under the title NEP 2020. So the point which I am trying to say over here is that, one, there are a number of problems that can be conceived by many people, many stakeholders, yes, but ultimately, once we define our objective of the education, focusing of an integrated development of a person, I'm sure we will be able to generate employable graduates needed for different professions, starting from workers top to the scientists. So instead of finding fault or instead of talking politics about this important area, I wish the document NEP 22 should be made operational as quickly as possible. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Dr. M. Abdul Salam, for giving your very, very candid and very explanatory views. And he mentioned very clearly we have to see the overall things before we should reach about the conclusion whether the Indian higher education system is at par or not. And what he says is that we should understand that the GDP is of our countries far less than the developed countries like USA or UK. He also mentioned to us that the ranking criteria which has given have so many things there, which also have the emphasis about the faculty students ratio, their research citations, etc., etc. And one very important point which Professor Dr. Salam mentioned is that we are a country of 140 crores. We are not only have to produce those professionals, those like doctors or engineers only, but we also have required to produce those skilled workers who are going to be the daily need workers for the country's development, because our country is a developing country. So he says that is the biggest difference between a developed country and the developing country. He also mentioned that in India, the unemployability is there. And he says that as per one of the survey, 80 to 90% of the engineers are unemployable, which shows in one way the education to them is not up to the standard. That's why they are unemployable. I can add that there was a survey in one of my panelists earlier in my one of the media conference mentioned that even if 20% become employable after they are passing their masters or done doing some professional job course, but they will after 1 year only 6% remain as the employable. So question is why the difference is coming that much. But he also mentioned that in India the theoretical path is at par with any university, rather better than any other foreign universities. But their infrastructure, time management, using latest technologies, their systematics, their systems are such a systematic way that that is one of the reason that their universities they have been ranking above that Indian ranking. He also mentioned that our education is a syllabus based oriented education. And that's why it was decided that we should come out with something new. And uh, as Kasturi Rangan, and if I'm not mistaken, was given charge in somewhere in 1986, which not 1986 was earlier. I think one I will let you know afterwards when he was asked to submit his report for the educational reforms, and that's why he has submitted this policy, which was launched last year on 29th or 30th of July by Honorable Prime Minister Mr. Modi. And this year on 30th of July, it was gazetted officially by our Honorable Prime Minister. And so he says that in this NEP, the main emphasis is not only the education, but it's a all-round development, whether it's skill development. But more very important point, according to Professor Dr. Kalam, in this national education policy is the value system, that how to give good value in the student, which was lacking earlier or which is also lacking in other countries. So what he says is that we should not see in that way that the education system in India is not at par. They are definitely not at par because of certain reasons, what he has already mentioned. But he says because of this new education policy, if it will be implemented properly without any political problems, then definitely it will be a game changer for the higher education system in India. Thank you very much, Professor Dr. M. Abdul Salam, for giving your views. Now, I would like to invite my next panelist guest, and he is Professor Dr. Mohanlal Agrawal. Professor Dr. Mohanlal Agrawal is the former Professor of Marketing, Innovation and Management, IIM, Lucknow, XLRI, Jamshedpur, and California State University, USA. He is president of Indo-Gulf Management Association. Welcome, Professor Dr. Mohanlal Agrawal. Professor Dr. Mohanlal Agrawal, you have heard what Professor Dr. M. Abdul Salam has mentioned. And his emphasis is very, very clear. We cannot compare to a developing country like India and a developed countries like USA and UK. Although he says that Asian countries we can compare, but I still have some reservation. I feel the Singapore universities are in a very top brackets in the ranking, which is not far ahead of Indian three universities. So although the people give the argument that it is a city country, Singapore, but whatsoever, we are talking about the education system only. Now, I would like to know from you, Professor Dr. Mohan Lal Agrawal, your views on, is Indian higher education at par with other countries? Professor Dr. Mohan Lal Agrawal, please. Please unmute. Please unmute. Please unmute.
Many thanks, Mr. Goel, for this opportunity to reflect on a topic which should concern each and every Indian. I am really in a very big respect for you as well as for Dr. Abdul Salam, who has given such a fantastic, fact-based and fascinating dispensation of how to make a comparison, how not to make a comparison, and how to look at Indian higher education system on its own merit or demerits without being any time unnecessarily patriotic about it. Because we are not talking about just something which is dear to us internally, but we should also be talking about it because it is dear to us internationally. Fortunately, all three of us who are here today, they have not only observed, but they have also participated and also contributed to the education system in both the worlds that have been defined by Dr. Abdul Salam as developed and developing. Probably we can also mention one more category which you were alluding in your reference to Singapore as a city country, which we can say as transforming countries. The countries which are going to be somewhere where they are now, but at a very rapid space, a very rapid pace. And therefore, these countries, in my mind, are the right way to talk about our education system. Neither the developed nor the undeveloped, but I would say the countries which are transforming, because they are basing the transformation on several key pillars, and one of them, those key pillars, is higher education. These are the role models for us. These are the real benchmarks for us. These are the real organizations or countries with whom we should compare ourselves and draw lessons whether we are good or not. Let me talk about that developed and developing countries. I had taught about 12 years in Canada and almost half of that 5 or 6 years in the US, in various countries, in various coasts, both East Coast as well as West Coast. And I can say with my experience that education system in India at that particular level, in that particular discipline, was a far better in India than what I found in the US or than what I found in the in Canada. In other words, I'm comparing apple to apple or oranges to oranges. So if we look into the universities or the ones that we are talking about in those countries and our own business schools, which are in good ranking, I would say that we are much better and in many cases, definitely, we are not lesser than them in terms of both student quality, teaching material, and teaching outcome. So how come that they are ranked in the world ranking and we are not ranked in world ranking whenever these world rankings come up? So I will talk about that in a few minutes, that perhaps that is one answer to this question that I have myself asked. The second very important point I would like to say here is that resources of the country has far less to do in terms of quality of higher education in that particular country. In fact, it is mostly the policy of that particular country. For instance, in Australia, Brisbane, where I was teaching in the best private university called Bond University in Brisbane, that was the only one at that time private university in Australia. And I found that this was done at a very careful analysis of the options that people should have by the government of Australia. And they did not get a single penny from them. They raised their own resources. They made their programs at market prices, and they were able to attract the people from US, Canada, Europe. In fact, I had a pleasant surprise when I was teaching there that I came straight away from Delaware, USA, where I was teaching. So I taught one student there in the in the spring semester, and the same student I got in Australia at the Bond University in the fall semester. And I said, "How come you are here?" He said, "Sir, I'm here because of this university and also because of the location of this university, and that is Brisbane, Gold Coast area." So I can understand that that part is also important from international education point of view, and that will answer your question that you are asked, that how come that we are not able to attract international students to our schools. By the way, India has been the most hunting ground for higher education from the Middle East and from Africa for a very long time in the present century. I'm not talking about Takshila days or other big days of Indian universities attracting people far east, far west, and so many other places they came. So why we have lost it, or why we are losing it, and why we are not in the reckoning of the world? I believe that there are three reasons which are important. Number one is the policy, which Dr. Salam very correctly mentioned. Our policy is not conducive for internationalization. Our policy is not at all in the autonomy area. It is more in terms of regulation area. It doesn't talk about self-regulation. It talks about bureaucratic regulation. It doesn't allow the environment to be set by that university. It wants to impose a particular environment and then wants the institution to participate into that environment and survive. Whether it is related to ethical education or cultural education or value education or moral education, all those particular things I have never found in any of the universities where I taught, whether it is UK, USA, Canada. Nobody asked me to teach Canadian values. There was no course even that was the American values. Everything was global education. So why we have to talk about our, yes, yoga and all those things can be understood because we are pioneers in them, but only because of its marketability and inherent value, not because it is, we want that everybody should learn yoga or things of Indian culture from that point of view. I think we want to be international, drop this thing that you have to learn something about Indian values. It can be at the most an optional elective, but it cannot be a mandatory course. So those who have interest, they can go for it. Or those who are not, then in that case, let them see the diversity, the richness of this country in its originality rather than in a forced structure, the way that we want. I don't know why, maybe some political reasons or others. And as we agreed that we will keep out political discussion, so we will keep that particular point also. But I strongly believe that such papers like Indian moral education and all that is a great idea only in schooling and growing thing, but at higher education, it should be made only and only as an elective, where people can read, learn at their own choice rather than forced by others from any other Indian philosophy or all that. So that's one thing. So I would say policy. There are many other aspects of policy, but I will not go one by one because I want everyone to discuss also. The second important thing is the process. And I totally agree with Dr. Salam when he said that Indian delivery method has become, higher education has become rote-based, memory-based. And I'll give you one example. And since Dr. Salam is from Kerala, so I do hope he will, somewhere endorse what I'm going to say. I'm teaching in UAE at a university which is having predominantly students coming from Kerala. It is a British university, London-based university, and I'm teaching them. What was the idea? That these students will come, they will learn the ways and other things of London-based university or international education, which was mostly on class participation, interaction among themselves, interaction between, but 90% of the students did not even open their microphone, forget about the video. In spite of number of times I have been telling them, please speak, please react. The questions were coming blank back to me. And it was almost like becoming annoying that what am I doing? Am I missing here something? Why I'm teaching like that? When they don't want to. And every time you say, sir, connection issue. Sir, digital issue. Every day for 90-minute session, same thing, same example. Then why are you studying in a Western university model? Which is, as Dr. Salam rightly said, is mostly about employability, is about reflection, is about projects, is about doing some assignments relevant for this thing. We were not doing any multiple choice questions or surprise quiz or pop quiz or 5 questions based midterm, nothing of that. It was mostly case based. They never opened any of that. And when I was among the people who insisted, probably it was not appreciated. They thought that it is being, now sometimes they may say that, oh, it is your method, your attraction that should catch the student. Believe me, I have not received all my teaching awards throughout the world of best teachers for nothing. There must be something in me, that is how I got them. Then why I am failing here? It is because the way they have been taught and the way they have been, they just listen, do, and then don't say anything. This is not the process of universities outside India. They will turn a student away if the student is not engaged, whether it is the backbencher or front or in the middle. Nobody can hide in the numbers. Just to give you one more example of this thing as a thing. When I was teaching in Australia, Brisbane, I had 400 students in one section of mine in marketing. And I said, seriously, I have to teach 400 students throughout the session. How will I be able to manage? I said, that is why we have taken the best, they said, number one. And number two, you will be receiving 26 teaching assistants, 26 teaching assistants for every 15 students. And these teaching assistants will be staying in your class, and then they will be taking these 15 students after your class for discussing many things that was not clear, or they wanted to ask questions, so that entire thing could be taken care of. Again, process part. This we don't do here. I don't know why. Maybe. The third aspect of that is people. So policy, process, people. In the case of people, each and every faculty in each and every university where I went had to go through what was known as Teaching and Learning Effectiveness Center. Teaching and Learning Effectiveness Center, where teachers will teach how to teach in the class in a participative manner, in a learning experience manner, using the technology and using the psychology of the students, so that the learning experience becomes absolutely wonderful. Now, this is not something which we do here in India. If a faculty of the same university takes a particular faculty development class, it is almost like as if they are doing a favor, and they try to pull that person down when there is a faculty development program, that how can you teach me something? I am having an experience of 29 years, 42 years and you are going to teach me how to teach? Yes, sir. The answer is yes, sir. Anybody can learn how to teach better at any stage, and there's no shame in it. Train the trainers is a very, very valid concept everywhere. Train the trainers is one of the requirements of each and every corporate body, that when they have to train the entire universe of their factory, they are not going to call for each of them is to a teacher from IIM or Calicut University or any other university. They will have trainers of that particular organization first to get from them. And exactly the same model we followed when I was training Air India. For 6 years, I trained them in order to prepare for this competition in the skies that you are seeing these days. And trainers were taught first. And then people came, and then those trainers learned how to do, and they did those programs later. So again, I would like to say, people is also mindset of the faculty. They think that I'm PhD, therefore I'm good in teaching. Sorry, sir, you couldn't be more wrong. You were given PhD for your expertise in that particular subject, not for teaching art, not for the craft of teaching, not for the art of teaching, not for art of learning how to help others learn from you, with you, along with you. And for that, these teaching and learning effectiveness centers come in a very, very big way. Neither there is a concept, nor there is a funding behind it, and nor there is any taking of it. So as a result, our teachers remain seriously damaged teachers mostly. Of course, many people shine, and that is why good teachers in India, immediately they become very, very good teachers in the Western countries, and they receive awards one after another. Because not only they know what they know, but they also get to learn how to teach. This we don't do, whether it is IIMs or XLRI or Calicut or any other university. And if it is happening, it's happening only by exception and in a very small quantity. The next thing is about the technology. Use of technology in the class. Use of technology in delivering higher education. We still have the methodology called sage on the stage thing. We go to the thing and think, give fantastic words, quotations here or there, and then as a result, we feel we have done the job. No. We do not want sage on the stage. We want coach. We want training coach like football coach and all that, where they give attention to the people, what they are doing right, what they are doing wrong, how to correct the wrong, and how to become better and better. Employability, the concept which you mentioned. So therefore, I believe that at this particular moment, we do not have that mentality among our faculty. So this is not going to take all. And last point, and that will perhaps do this thing, that most of these, QS rating or any other ratings, Financial Times, business, all of them are based on one fundamental idea: research-based, research-enriched teaching. Most of the universities in India are pizza delivery centers. They have a book called they have a pizza called a book, and they have got a delivery boy called a teacher, who doesn't teach through his or her research, who doesn't research what he or she teaches, and who doesn't publish as a rule the things in the internationally accredited journals, where others can also see what they are writing and what they are publishing. In each and every university in USA or other Western countries we are talking about, there is a post of a research professor. there is also a time for research for each and every professor. And if that professor doesn't publish in very, very highly rated thing, he or she is taken off from teaching from the PG classes and given more and more UG classes rather than PG classes. Here, no. Here, neither the universities and schools have any commitment towards the research of professors. Neither they give time, nor they give them money, nor even they consider it at the first thing is load that person with as many courses as possible. And that person also feels good about it. If that person receives a lower load, he thinks I am happy. Actually, that lower load was given in order to allow you the time to reflect, research, publish. But those particular things have not been done. So fault lies with us also, not just with the universities. Take a combination of all these factors together, and that will answer the question which I had asked, that then why we are not great or why we are not ranked among the top things when we have one of the best students who are coming to the higher education. I can vouch anywhere that the input coming to the higher education in India is the best, whether it is UAE or UK or USA or Canada. Very smart people, Indians are going there, number one. So why we are not there? Why brilliant teachers are teaching there and they are also teaching here and still nothing happened? So there has to be a combo of those factors. So Mr. Goel and Dr. Salim, please, thank you very much for giving me the chance. But at the same time, I also request you that when you write some policy recommendations, please make sure that the research-driven teaching becomes the basis of better teaching rather than better teaching with lips or better teaching with quotations or citations or delivery style or as I call pizza delivery boys. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Dr. Mohanlal Agrawal, for giving such a forthright, candid, and the thoughts of you, which have been, I'm sure, it's a very, very eye opener, not for the panelists, but for everyone who are listening today or who is watching today. And I'm sure the message of today's program should go to the government of the day when they are having such a good intention for implementing this national education policy. Whatsoever good inputs are coming, they should see to it that this all are from those who are having that authority, those who have so much experience, and those who have seen very closely the universities setups in other countries and why the quality of the education is superior. But I would like to highlight few things which Dr. Mohanlal Agrawal has mentioned. According to Professor Agrawal, policy, process, people. He says the resource has nothing to do to say that we are a poor country or we are a developing country. It has nothing to do with the education. It is the policy. The policy is very important, and in India the policy is not very conducive, and that is one of the reasons. Even he says that even in the new education policy, when we are talking about the moral values, he says he has taught in other universities across the world, nobody wants to give any values, or whether it's American values or the British values or Canadian values. So why to impose something? You can make it an optional subject, or anybody wants to go for object, but it should be the global values should be given to the students according to him. Secondly, he says the problem is the rod or memory based education in India, because here the students are just mugging the things and giving the exams. While this is not the case there, they used to discuss, they used to interact with each other, interact among themselves, interact with the professors, the teachers, the trainers, and then only they get their concepts clear. So that is one of the reasons. And he has given his own example how in the UAE, when he's teaching the students in a London-based campus college there, the students from India were not ready to interact with so many excuses, whether the net is not working, whatnot. While this is the difference, because they were trained from the very beginning about the memory-based education. So he says that we have to change that. Then he says, train the trainer. Although the national education policy emphasized this time very clearly to train the teachers, to give them the refreshers course, etc. But what he says, the practical experience says that no teacher who is having experience of 30, 20, 25 years or with the qualifications of several PhDs or whatnot would like to be trained from somebody who's a young or somebody who's not that much qualified as they. But they, according to Professor Dr. Mohanlal Agarwal, this is a very, very important point, that a teacher who got the PhD is in that particular subject, but how to teach is not in that PhD. So according to Professor Agarwal, one should be giving that type of training very frequently. And he said the training should be like a coach. He says he has used some word which is I'm sure that although it is might be harsh for the teaching community, but this is the reality today. He says it's a pizza delivery boy, and pizza is equivalent to the books and the delivery boy is equivalent to the teachers, where you are just delivering without thinking what is coming, what is not coming, whatsoever is the curriculum, you are just delivering. No research, nothing. Until unless you will not do the research, and until unless you will not give that impact of the research to the student, it is not going to improve the quality of the education in India. According to Professor Agarwal, the students' input are very excellent. This is, they are going abroad, they are showing colors there. So why not in India? It means there is some problem, basic problem is the teaching problem. And he says for that, unless we will not train the trainers, we will not be able to justify, even with this type of policy. He says we don't want lip service, we want actual implementation for the benefit of the country at large as well as the students. Thank you very much, Professor Dr. Mohanlal Agarwal, for giving your very, very open, trust, I will say full of your own experience views about this thing. Now, my question goes to Professor Dr. M. Abdul Salam. As already I told in the very beginning, that Professor Salam, you being a BJP leader also now, why the BJP opposed the reforms which were bought in 95, then again in 2004 or 6, and then 2010. They were opposing. And now the same BJP is pushing this national education policy. What happens in a few years that there is a complete mindset? Don't you think BJP has in very crude word, I am asking you, being a BJP leader, that you have blocked an entire generation and deprived the higher education, quality of higher education, which they should have got if these types of modifications, these types of changes would have come 30 years or 25 years back. What do you say about this, Professor Dr. M. Abdul Salam?
No, thank you, Lalji. Let me thank Agarwalji for sharing the experience of his experience in US, Canada, and Australia. Before answering your question, let me share a few of my thoughts in nutshell, in bullets. Bullet number 1, to change the system in India, my thought, number one, how best we can create a fertile field here in India, like IITs, for a better crop for our students, fertile field for our students. Fields like IITs, it is possible. Then the question resource, I will come to that. When you look for a fertile field for the students, if you have resource crunch, you have transformed India to another fertile field for the private players. Let them invest, let them create facilities, let them keep our students here in India itself instead of migration to other places. Remember that in international environment, the best students are Indian students and the best teachers are Indian teachers. Our challenge is how to create fertile fields like IITs and fertile field for private players for changing the game changing of education in India. Number one. Number two, see, I also mentioned, we are not looking for creating one class of workers for 140 crores. We have to identify how many doctors are required, how many engineers are required, how many workers are required, how many teachers are required yearly. And looking at that requirement, we have to tailor our development policy. Number one. Number two, I was mentioning about the unemployability. For that, there is an urgent need to shift from the current system to a, I call it as a WILL system, W-I-L-L. What is a work integrated learning and living system? Starting from the age of 15 with the soft skills up, we should have a WILL system at all levels so that we'll be using the industry centers, working places, schools, colleges, everywhere work is there. Our students will be working and learning. In this internet era, they can learn by online theory plus a bit of direct plus real work time experience plus internship experience. Finally, they will be coming out as much better employable graduates than others, than the present graduates. The third point I want to tell you is about the present grading. I'm not questioning the grading system. I'm suggesting, yes, you go ahead with the memory grading system. I'm not objecting to that. Along with that, a B part, let us have a skill grading system, skill link system, skill mapping system, skill nurturing system, and transform at least, I want to say at least 500 universities more, 1,000 plus 500, 1,500 universities for 140 crores. Primarily for skilling and skilling and skilling alone. Looking at the need of the nation, not only that, the need of the world. We have 140 crores. We'll be supplying manpower. So creating thinkers plus doers plus innovators, following will, online plus real time, plus internship program. And then one more thing, I am very much keen to replace the current system of examination. We must switch from the indoor examination to outdoor examination, a real time examination, real life examination, real life valuation, valuation by grading, by multiple evaluators and taking an average, finally focusing on his ability. Yes, a good teacher or a good worker or a good electrician, good scientist, that element should also form a part, then only this education will attain a purpose. Then it is important, the government should make this internet available everywhere. The Prime Minister has already launched a program to make available internet in all the villages of India. 6 lakh villages will be covered in 1 year time. Then I am coming back to your question. Your question is why the policy implementation is delayed. Am I correct? There was some.
Yeah. No.
Why the policy
question.
implementation is delayed? Yes.
No, not delayed. It was opposed by the BJP.
See, I tell you, if you look at the educational scenario of the country, at least for the past 4 decades that I remember, no government has attached a serious concern or paid serious concern, accepting lip service to change the education. They talk too much and do the least. That was happened, number one. Number two, every government was competing for declaring policies and doing nothing. And the present document, if you are referring to the same document, I believe an exercise of 7 years by a team of 12 people, I believe that is an integration of wonderful thoughts. There again, the opposition I was watching, all the oppositions are politically based oppositions or other interest-centric oppositions. You look at the people of the country, there is nothing to oppose. I think NEP 2020 Government of India is going to be adopted by many other countries because it is unique, it is novel, it is student-oriented, integrated student development-oriented program. It cannot be opposed. The opposition is political or other interest-centric. The last point I want to make it very emphatic over here is to my own government, my own people, my own leaders. If you ask me to list 5 major programs of the government of India, I'll say NEP is one of the best. One of the best. I'm not putting it as number one. It is the best. But there should not be any more delay in implementing the programs and policies. Let the students and the people enjoy the fruits envisaged under NEP 2020. But the challenge is how best we can implement it in the way it is envisaged in the document. That is a challenge. I'm sure that is going to make a break in the country with respect to creation of a knowledge revolution and ultimately creating a good number of, or the good population, healthy population, intellectually healthy, physically healthy, mentally healthy, emotionally healthy and useful to themselves and to the nation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Dr. M. Abdul Salam, for giving your very, very candid, or you can say the reply which I have asked, and giving more bullet points also. Now my question goes to Professor Dr. Mohanlal Agarwal. Although this is not my question, this is the question from Mr. Duli Chand Karel. He is the National President of Bharatiya Swarnkar Sangh. So he has asked a question. According to him, the educational curriculum must be based on quality and interest, and everyone should have some technical knowledge of every field so that he or she can develop the subject smoothly, more efficiently. This will result in quality, appreciated industrialization, whether it is small cottage or bigger one. Do you agree with this, Professor Dr. Mohanlal Agarwal?
I think he is hitting the nail with a very, very precise question and equally precise thought process. So please convey my compliments to him. But here we are not talking about education. Here we are talking about higher education. So at the level of education, what Mr. Swarnkar is saying is totally correct. Absolutely right. But at the higher education level, it should go more by expertise and expertise required for the development of the globe as well as for the country. That is how this particular, otherwise up to 12th plus 2, I will agree with what he says. We should learn science, we should learn history, we should learn arts, we should learn commerce, everything we should learn. And this is what our new education policy is telling us also. And that's why I think I'm totally with Dr. Salim when he defends and also exhorts people to implement the new education policy. He's totally right in what he's saying. But at higher education, I believe it should be more expertise, contribution to the needs sectors of that particular country. So, like for instance, let me give the example of Israel, although many people don't give. Israel is among the hottest countries in the world in terms of higher education, whether it is technical education or management education or nuclear or defense or anything, whether it is, even the, this financial world, fintech, they are doing so well in that. That's because their higher education is extremely good. Last thing I would like to say, and I will quote here Mr. Nelson Mandela. When Mr. Nelson Mandela became president of the very hard-won independence of South Africa, he was also asked or asked by people to make reservations for higher education, for certain communities, for certain areas and all that. He said, I will not do that, because this is the fastest way to destroy a country, by making reservations in those areas which are crucial for the country. Yes, higher education must be free. Higher education must be earned. Higher education must be paid for. Higher education even should be financed by loans if you need to, because that's the way the country should grow. Exactly. Not like you are subsidizing BCom, MCom, PhD. Why? For what reason you are subsidizing that? Yes, make 12 free, make 10th free, make 8th free. I will give my tax dollars for that. But I would not give my tax dollars for higher education because that should be earned. That should not be given from. And if you're giving them, then the same way I will make sure that these people should also be asked to contribute through wealth creation, employability, startups, many of those things, so that the country can gain from that. I'm not saying that you should not leave the country. You should leave the country in case you are, but then please contribute back to the society, because higher education is not your right. Higher education is a privilege, and that particular privilege should be earned with your interest, with your financing and everything. But don't make it, I would say, reservation oriented. Make it totally open, accessible to all. That is what I would say.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Agrawal. Now, what you said, I am going to put the same question now to Professor Dr. Salam. Professor Salam, recently the government has announced the reservation, and the reservations are in the higher education. Lots of reservation. I did one program on that, and the doctor says that just imagine that a person who is not a rank holder or is getting 30-40% marks in the total his career, if he becomes a doctor, and there also he will get a post-graduation again on the reservation while he is not able to perform properly and become a surgeon. Then one of the doctor asked me, would you like to go to a surgeon who is under the reservation quota? And she was there. She said, I will not like to go if I will come to know that this doctor is under the reservation quota. Now, similarly for the engineers. Now, what Professor Agrawal is saying is that reservation should be up to 12. Yes, put whatsoever free, everything. But after that, the higher education should be earned, higher education on the merit. What you say, because you belong to ruling party. What you say about this, Professor Salam?
No, I appreciate the statement of Agarwal ji. The point is, a country like India with 140 crores, higher education, I look at the graduation and the post-graduation, the master's and doctorate level. Yes, at the graduation level, perhaps with a country of this much of population demanding so much of people, again, large number of poor people and socially backward people, reservation, if affordable, can be extended up to the graduation level, to ensure social justice and also to produce large number of, workers for the country. But beyond that,
You are muted. You are muted, please.
it is not required to extend the reservation policy at that point of time, at that level of education. People, self-driving people, interested people, passionate people should pursue higher education, so that that education will be good to himself and to the nation. Otherwise, forced education at higher levels with the public funding, I'm sure that may end up only as a waste. So I still believe that, beyond graduation level, we should not, extend the reservation policy.
Okay, thank you. And I hope, Professor Salam, your view should reach to the ruling party, because it is your party only which has come out with the reservation. And even for the economic backward, even for the all those categories which are already there in public domain, let's see how, when it will be implemented, what will be the complication or implications. Now, my question goes to Professor Dr. Mohanlal Agrawal. Professor Agrawal, we are talking the campuses to be opened in India, foreign campuses. When the foreign big universities like Oxford, Harvard, etc. will open their campuses, definitely the students will come from across the world. Definitely the faculty will also come from there. Don't you think? Then the cultural invasion in India, which is a right now very much we are seeing even the interstate, sir, lots of problems are coming. The students from one state to other state, people always, and we have seen for the northeastern students what how they were treated in Delhi and in Karnataka. Now, what is going to happen if those are coming and their culture values are different? There, the smoking is not something, or the drinking is not prohibited. While in India, our culture is different, and if they will be drinking openly, and if they are smoking openly, and if they are, how the you can control the faculties or those who are coming from there? Don't you think the purpose will be defeated if you will have a control regime? No one can drink openly, no one can smoke openly, no one can wear short dresses, and even no one will eat something like beef or something. What do you say about that? Please
Thank you
unmute.
very much. Thank you very much, sir, for asking a very relevant follow-up question on that. You know, many of these fears are actually excuses, sorry to use the term, excuses for preventing good organizations and associations and business schools or universities to come in India, because they will kill the bad apples which are there in India, and who are doing exactly what you are saying, but they are doing because they are Indians. So just because smoking is being done in an Indian campus, it is fine. But when it is done in Oxford campus in India, then it is not fine. That part, I think, where you cannot stop in a democratic country what they will behave or not, because people are exposed to Netflix, to various other things, and they learn all about that. My feeling is, sir, and I hope you will at some, because you are, for me, you are a very wise man. My feeling, sir, here is that these are the reasons to keep the people who will kill you because you are bad away. And that is how they are doing it. That they know that the best universities will not come here until they get the best inputs to come there. And the moment Harvard comes here, IIMs will close first. The same way, when baby IIMs came, many other top ranked business schools in India became lowly ranked business schools suddenly, because even IIM Guwahati will get more people than probably, XLRI or something else, because of that particular thing. I'm not saying this is the truth. I'm just giving you as an example. So that's the thing I would say. Bad coin is always thrown away by a good coin. So what is the thing? Keep the good coin in your pocket and allow the bad coin to continue. Why? Because if the good coin comes, then you say, oh, they will do this. You're already having a currency note which is solid and bad. Why are you worried about the new currency to come in the market? You have seen in the UK, just one last second, that how the notes are crisp in UK when you use the pounds and all that. You must not have seen any bad currency. In India, the 10 rupees note, 100 rupees note is seen by everyone 10 times, because it's so dirty, so bad, and so, that they are not even touching it for COVID reason or whatever. This is exactly what is happening in India in terms of higher education also. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So today's viewers, you have seen the two, I must say, they are the join on the education. They have given their views, very, very candid views, and they've given all the views how the countries, our higher education, and both have agreed in one point that is still lots of things to be done. And both agreed that this National Education Policy 2020 will be a game changer if it will be implemented properly. And for the implementation, as we know, the education is not only the central subject, but also under the state. All the stakeholders have to come together and see to it that it should be implemented properly. Then only. Plus, there are many more suggestions which input has been given by both the panelists. If that will be, and once the new policy always implemented, some corrections are always necessary, which I'm sure that it will come. But when We don't know when it will be done, when it will not be done. But thank you very much. And today's program has been live telecasted by V4 News, Global TV, V4 Stream, Malnadu TV India, News Gaon se, Samvad Sarokan News, Bharat Post News, as well as to our show live on YouTube and Facebook. And our endeavor in our evening program of Kal Aaj aur Kal Lal Goel ke Sang at 4:30 p.m., where we bring somebody who is an achiever and who can be a motivational force, or the somebody who can give some motivation to the youth or the young. And today's my chief guest is Miss Radhika Tejpal. She's Mrs. India 2018, and she 19, and she's Mrs. Asia Personality Queen. So please tune in and hear her own life journey in the program Kal Aaj aur Kal Lal Goel ke Sang at 4:30 p.m. Thank you very much, Professor Dr. M. Abdul Salam. Thank you very much, Professor Dr. Mohanlal Agarwal, for joining and giving your very, very experienced, thoughtful views. And thank you all the viewers. And I'm sure today's program is very, very educational, not only for the students, even for the teachers and for the everyone who matters, because the education is such a subject everyone is connected with. So thank you very much. Thank you all.